welcome to the Lotto Solista, a boot that's been around for a while and one that I am a huge fan of, to the point where we are going to re-review it. I'm going to say a lot of good things about these boots, so let's get something negative out of the way. It's trivial, but it annoys me. This is the Lotto Solista 200 version 6. 6 in Roman numerals comes after the name. This is the same boot, version 7. So you would assume that they are different. Incorrect. They're just different colors. Seems that every graphical update and every color gets a new number, and that is both confusing and stupid, if you ask me. But anyway, this is the Pro Direct Special Edition Anniversary colorway, which is absolutely beautiful. I really like it. And then this is the colorway that I've actually been using the most at the moment. I have another pair of these, which is this dark blue, white, light blue colorway. I think this is absolutely gorgeous, and these are the ones that I tend to go for. So these are Lotto's speed boot, and the outsole on these is crazy light. The boot as a whole is very light, and so light that it's 183 grams. Now this is in a US size 7.5. Now, for those of you that know me, that is half a size down from what I would normally get. I think, in fact, I'm sure that these boots run long, and it is, again, probably one of my only criticisms of the boot. And hell, let's get out of the way, let's talk about it now. So the Solista is a reasonably narrow boot, and if you have wide feet, I'm immediately going to tell you these probably aren't for you. But that narrowness leads into my point about the length. Now, I've had to go down half a size, and that means that the width is still fine. It's not too tight. I can wear these quite comfortably. However, there is actually still about half a size worth of length in the end of the boot that I would like to go down to get the boot to fit towards the end of my toes absolutely perfectly. However, I can't do that because if I do go down another half size, these are too tight around my foot. So go down half a size and expect to have a little bit of room at the end. Now, this isn't the end of the world, because if you look at the toe box on this boot, or you look at the toes, there is very little volume in there. You've got a very low toe box, which is actually great in some instances. But if I was to be hypercritical, which I am being because it's a boot that I really love, I'd love to see a tiny bit more volume in there so that the length of the boot could be pushed back a little bit, and then they would fit better lengthwise in that half size down. I almost feel like this is a deliberate decision by Lotto to get that lower toe box, and that's ended up with the length being a bit long. So go half size down. If you have a wide foot, don't buy these. And if you have a narrow foot, these probably should fit you really well. And just be aware that even at half size down, you might end up with a little bit of room in the end of the boot. So we're talking about foot shape there. And yes, the general structure I don't think will allow for a particularly wide foot to get into a half size down on these. However, the upper is unbelievably soft. It is a beautiful knit upper. It's really great and I love it. It's really special actually. It's, considering how old this is, now this boot has probably been out, I'm gonna guess 4 years, and the upper still absolutely holds up, stands up to modern day knit standards. Now, it's not doing anything particularly crazy. It's a knit with an upper top coating, probably a TPU top coating, and then a liner on the inside for structure. But this knit, like a lot of boots at the moment, like the New Balance boots, the new Puma boots, we're all raving about how soft the knit is. This absolutely stands up to those. It's just as soft, if not softer than some of them, and requires slim to no breaking time. And then the more you wear them, the more they do shape and mold around your foot a little bit, which is really nice. I can't speak highly enough of how soft this knit is and how great it is. Now, there is a small downside if you look at it as a downside. I personally don't, because it's just about preference. The upper on these is a little bit on the thicker side. Now, it's not thick, but I'm saying this because they are a speed boot. And generally you would expect a speed boot to have a very thin barefoot upper, and it absolutely doesn't have that. There's a little bit more padding, there's a little bit more of a dampened sensation, and that's just what you're going to get from the boot. So if you're thinking speed boot, expecting barefoot, you're not going to get that, but you are going to get a nice amount of padding, and I think it's still a really delightful touch on the ball. And I think you just have to maybe not think of them as speed boots. I will talk about the sole plate in a minute, and the same reasoning applies. That top coating that Lotto added is a little bit tacky, gives you a really nice touch on the ball, especially in the wet. Now, I was kind of blown away a little bit when the GX got released and everyone's going crazy about the fact that it was kind of a little bit hydrophobic, performed really well in the wet. Lotto did that like 4 years ago. Now, admittedly, it's done in very, very different ways, and the GX is a very high-tech material, but this is my go-to rainy day boot and has been for a very long time because of how well it stops my feet getting soaked while still being breathable and still gives me a nice amount of tacky touch on the ball when it's wet. It's great. Like, if you're looking for a wet weather boot at a really affordable price, you don't want to go out and pick up the GX or anything like that, you should definitely give these a look. You can see the knit itself is also in a ridged pattern, and that helps by giving you that extra texture on the ball without anything being over the top. It's not interrupting your touch, it's not providing you with anything artificial or unnatural, but just an extra bit of ribbing to give you an extra little bit of assistance. Again, great in wet weather, and it's a very simple idea executed really, really well. And I genuinely do not think that Lotto get enough props for some of the things that they're doing with their boots, particularly this one. We'll do a Maestro review in the future, we'll re-review that, so get subscribed to the channel to check that out. And if you want to see the laceless review of this, then do drop a comment down in the comments. That makes sense. Kind of. Continue. The laces run really nice and deep. I absolutely love that about these boots, and that means that the lockdown overall is good. The heel is a tiny bit on the shallow side. It's a lot of most, if not all, of the lockdown is going to come from this external heel counter, and I would like to see a little bit more up through here just to give it a little bit more structure, feel a little deeper. But that does mean that there is basically no pressure points, and even though there's only a minimal amount of padding in the back here, the comfort is overall very good. The upper can hurt responsiveness a little bit because it's not overly structured, so if you do take a big cut and push into the side of the boot, it's not always going to come back with you immediately, but it's more than good enough and not really a reason to complain, and definitely not a reason to reject these boots. The outsole helps that responsiveness. It is stable through the midfoot without being excessively so. There's still a little bit of give, and this comes back to my don't judge it as a speed boot. It's a really great boot, but if you start attaching speed boot criteria to it, it kind of falls up short. So it's not a speed boot, it's just a good football boot. And as you can see, it is all conical studs throughout. Some of these what I call Pac-Man style studs, which I don't think do a huge amount of difference, but it gives you great rotational movement. It's very, very comfortable, and it does everything that you need it to do. It's very, very light, and your spring back is very good. So I'm not saying these are perfect, but when the price of all the boots have shot up to nearly $300, and you can pick up a pair of these for around $100 from a lot of places at the moment. If you do want to do so, please check the links down in the top pinned comment and description, because it helps support the channel, and I very much appreciate that. Keeps us running. Back to my point that for value for money, you pretty much can't beat these. I think there's a really high quality boot here. The durability is great. I've had multiple pairs. I've worn one pair to death and they still didn't fall apart. I just think it's the only reason that these aren't shifting more units is because they're not Nike or Adidas boots, which is a shame. And the same can be said of quite a few brands that are really delivering top tier boots. And not that long ago, Lotto really were. They were it. They were absolutely it. Now that could just be me showing my age, remembering that, like, you know, one of my favorite players was Cafu, and he's marauding wearing Lottos. I just think that more people need to give these a chance, and I'm going to keep rocking mine because I think they're great.